El Salvador. This dude looked like some kind of mobster. I don't know what he is, but El Salvador has some of the toughest prisons in the world. In less than 2 years, they went from completely corrupt and crime everywhere to locking everybody up and not allowing them to hardly see daylight. But also on top of that, they're also offering Americans or offering the United States of America, the ability to send migrants, illegal migrants there, and or some of our worst of our worst of our citizens. I want to know what y'all think about this after this segment. Make sure y'all tap into the Patreon. Link is in the description. Check it out.
On Secretary of State Marco Rubio's whirlwind tour of Latin America, a potentially unprecedented offer from the president of El Salvador.
He has agreed to accept for deportation any illegal alien in the United States who is a criminal from any nationality, be they MS-13 or Tren de Aragua, and house them in his jails.
President Nayib Bukele revealing more in a post on X, offering the U.S., quote, the opportunity to outsource part of its prison system in exchange for a fee. And it's not just for people who are in the U.S. illegally.
He has offered to house in his jails dangerous American criminals in custody in our country, including those of U.S. citizenship and legal residence. No country's ever made an offer of friendship such as this.
But that offer, especially to take U.S. citizens, raising major concerns.
It's a non-starter to talk about deporting U.S. citizens. It's point blank unlawful.
Unless someone has committed a crime abroad, extensive constitutional and legal protections exist to prevent that in most cases. And for citizens of other countries apprehended here, regulations are still in place.
They have to follow the very strict requirements Congress has laid out, which means an agreement between the U.S. and El Salvador, but also an absolute guarantee that those individuals will be safe in El Salvador from danger, persecution, and torture.
Rubio today acknowledging it's unclear if such an action would be legal.
Obviously, we'll have to study it on our end. There are obviously legalities involved. We have a constitution. We have all sorts of things, but it's a very generous offer.
That offer would put convicted criminals in President Bukele's notorious mega prison, known as the terrorism
Night J, why don't you agree with it? I'm not saying that you should or that you shouldn't. I'm just wondering, why don't you agree with it, Night J? Look at how they deal with their criminals over there versus ours. Ours be on TikTok over here. In the United States of America, in our prison system, they drink hooch, they got cell phones, they play TikTok, they do games, they bust down the women correction officers, they get front butt, they do all of that. They work out all day, they wind up getting educated, they come out of prison feeling good, like, ooh, that was a nice little vacation. All right, so what we got going on out here in the real world? Over here in the United States of America, it's like going on vacation, depending on the level of security that you in. Over there,
confinement center. Built by Bukele to house alleged members of gangs that had once helped make El Salvador one of the most dangerous countries in the world. It has become a symbol of his crackdown on crime. That crackdown has swept up 80,000 people and enjoyed public support.
Los niños hoy van a las escuelas sin sus padres.
Says nowadays children walk to school.
Public support.
Los niños hoy.
Nowadays children walk to school on their own without their parents. Something we don't always enjoy inside of the United States of America.
Van a las escuelas sin sus padres, caminan seguros con la seguridad.
Knowing they will return safely and they won't be kidnapped by gangs.
Que van a regresar a sus casas y no van a ser secuestrados por los pandilleros.
That mega prison, the size of 7 football stadiums, with the capacity to hold 40,000 prisoners. Movements are tightly controlled. No mattresses are offered. Prisoners spend all but 30 minutes per day in packed cells. The State Department under President Biden called prison conditions in the country harsh and life-threatening.
I'm a little conflicted here. And the only reason that I'm conflicted is because I don't agree with a lot of these people that are being convicted in the court of public opinion, and then they come out of jail later only to be recused or they, you know what I'm saying, basically are said that they was lied on and they went to prison unjustly. For those prisoners, for the people that are falsely accused and are doing prison sentences and basically got me too, I don't agree with it. But they not playing no games over there. They not playing no games. As a matter of fact, let me do the whole thing. Let's go back to the real documentary. This is what they dealing with, and this is how they deal with it. This is how in 2 years they went to hardly zero crime inside of El Salvador.
All right, we're gonna go in here.
Even as I'm stepping through these doors,
En la misma celda.
I don't fully grasp what we're about to walk into. Suddenly, you're hit with the intense gaze of dozens locking onto you. These men described as the worst of the worst, tattooed with reminders of El Salvador's dark past. It's tense and uncomfortable. But here, officials say comfort isn't meant to exist.
There's no mattresses, there's no sheets. You've got a toilet over here for them to go to the bathroom. You've got this basin here that they use to bathe themselves. And then you can see there's a barrel of water that they can drink from.
This is a rare look inside El Salvador's terrorism confinement center, known as SECOT.
And he says there's always somebody standing here in front of the cells. And then if you look up, there's another corridor with more security personnel. Luz 24 horas. 24/7 light.
The prison sits like
Ain't no lights out, 24/7, 365, lights is on, being watched by the guards, no sheets, no mattresses, no nothing. Gosh. And of course, you got a bunch of people, a lot of raging liberals that's out here in these streets that's saying, oh my God, humanitarian conditions. They not playing no games. Zero games. And they don't have no crime now over in El Salvador. Ain't that crazy?
an isolated fortress nestled in mountainous terrain, about an hour-and-a-half drive from the capital. Even with government officials on board with us, we're stopped a mile out.
Oh, okay. He's gonna inspect bags now too. Okay, we're clear to get back in.
Only to hit another checkpoint. Approaching the main gate, our cell signals vanish.
Want to do a full search?
How come the cell signals don't vanish in the prisons that we at? Everybody be on the phone, they be on TikTok, they be doing obstacle courses inside of jail. Y'all be having prison bays.
On us before we enter.
SECOT's director, Belarmino Garcia, greets us
Bienvenido.
and takes us through a rigorous security check.
Wedding ring. So this is like airport security on steroids. Anything that we're carrying with us. Móvil aquí, teléfono. Okay, anything we're carrying with us has to go there. And then there's a body scan that continues on the other side. Okay. Shoes off. This one back on. Gracias.
Playing no games, bro.
Once cleared, we toured the
you think
vast
I'm playing? They really do obstacle courses inside a prison. I'm gonna see if I can find one for you.
campus, starting with the armory.
He says they have to constantly remind themselves that they're dealing with essentially the worst of the worst, and for that reason, they need to be ready for whatever risks they might face. It's been equated to 7 football stadiums. It's almost multiple prisons within the prison. You can see off to the distance, there's 3 different rings as they describe. The far end, you have one that's 9 meters high of concrete, and then above that, 3 meters of electrified fencing.
15,000 volts.
15,000 volts.
More than 1,000 security personnel, guards, police, and military are stationed on site. Inmates are assigned to one of 8 sectors.
The director tells me the inmates, once they're inside one of these sectors, they never leave. Everything is done within, including doctors, as well as legal visits or court hearings.
Each sector holds more than 24 large cells.
Roughly 80 inmates per cell, but it can fluctuate.
Most bear the markings of the gangs that held this nation hostage for decades, committing brutal acts of violence.
You gotta kill people, you gotta rob
You gotta do what you gotta do to survive.
You have to do those things.
Yeah, you gotta do that.
And if you didn't do those things, you wouldn't.
You wanna be a gangbanger.
We meet 41-year-old Marvin Vasquez, shackled and heavily guarded.
What gang were you part of?
MS-13.
And do you have any gang affiliations?
Yeah, I'm tattooed up.
What is this?
Crazy criminals. Say crazy criminals. Yeah, I made this clique in 2011.
You made the clique?
Yeah,
You were a gang leader.
yeah.
What is it like to live here?
It's probably not a hotel 5-star, but they give you the 3 times the food. They give you some programs. You go to do exercise.
Ejercicio nosotros lo podemos repetir siempre.
Some church religion programs too.
But that's limited to just 30 minutes a day. The other 23 and a half hours, they're kept inside and locked up.
For inmates who get violent with other prisoners or guards,
We're going to close the door. I just want to get a sense of. Wow.
solitary confinement awaits.
The only light you get is through this hole. And they can be in here for 15 days potentially.
Nah, I'm good on that. Like I think that if we had that over here inside of the United States of America, people would be on their best behavior. Nope, people would be on their best behavior. I wouldn't even be interested in participating in such a thing. Yeah, I think that offer is a great offer. I think that we should evaluate it. Since we can't do it here because we got so many civil rights groups that want to fight for the rights of the prisoners,